Good morning. Today is Monday, November 1st. Congratulations, you survived Halloween. I hope you had a good one. My name is Miles Bassett, and this is Ask Wildman. Ask Wildman is an open Q&A produced by Wildman Web Solutions here in Lawrence, Kansas. Every week, my team and I get on here live streaming to our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch accounts to answer your questions. Questions about technology, marketing, advertising, business, or if you just want to jump on and ask us how our days are, please throw your questions in the comments below. Again, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So throw those questions in the comments below and we'll hit those as they come up. Or if you're watching this later, you're not catching us live, you can still get your questions in by emailing us at askwildman@wildmanweb.com. I have that address scrolling below me here in this helpful little crawler. So make sure to grab that email and send us your questions there. We'll either just respond to you there or we'll use your question for material for next week's show. So we do this every week, Monday at 11. We move from Wednesday to Monday. So Monday at 11, live streaming to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Make sure to jump in and watch us live there to get your questions answered. I'll be watching the comments over here and answering your questions. But yeah, we do this every week in order to answer your questions here and hopefully put out some good information about running a business in 2021, about getting yourself online. Everyone's always asking us about, what's better? Should I be advertising on Google or advertising on Facebook? When should I be doing either of those things? Do I really need a website or should I just be using social media and search engines? What is SEO? I end up talking a lot about SEO or search engine optimization. If you have any questions about any of that, tune into this show and get your questions answered, or you can also check out our website, wildmanweb.com. I'm showing it here on the screen. For those of you who are just listening on audio, you are really missing out, but check out our website at wildmanweb.com. We've got a bunch of other resources. In addition to learning about us and all the different services we provide, we have an entire resources section here. Starts off with our blog where we're putting articles up all the time. My team and I are working all the time to put up useful articles. Some of them are just quick little tidbits. Some of them are really deep dives into more complicated subjects. We try to cite all of our sources and link everything there so that you can go out and learn more yourself. Maybe just treat us as the starting point, the beginning of your dive into some sort of digital rabbit hole. But yeah, check out all of these articles here. Make sure to check us out on social media. We post a lot of this to social media, and subscribe to our newsletter if you want some more information there. We do put some things out that are only in the newsletter. It's not too salesy, I promise. It's just a bunch of resources like this. In addition to that, we have live stream archives. That is this show uploaded. We try to keep it up to date here. Looks like I'm a little bit behind. We're back in August, but we try to put all of our shows up here so that if I happen to say something smart, if one of my team members here happens to say something smart a few weeks ago, you can hop back and see what we said. So check out the live stream archives here. Also check out our podcast. We are live on anywhere you find your podcasts, and that is this show, the audio version of this show, the Ask Wildman show. So if you would rather just listen to us and not see our ugly mugs up here on screen, then check out the podcast. Finally, we have our toolkit. This is the Local Business Online Toolkit. This is free software that we've put together for managing a small business online. It's not the end all be all. It's not the answer to all of your prayers, but it's a really healthy start to help you get started on, getting your website up there, managing your business listings, getting started on SEO, managing your social media. If you're doing any advertising out there on Facebook or on Google, then our tool here will actually help you to get some insights, some cross-platform insights here and see what's working and what maybe needs some work. So all of this is free. All you have to do is come here, sign up right here, put in a little information about your business, and it'll get you started. It's all free. We provide this as a resource to anyone and everyone who wants it. So come check this out, wildmanweb.com/LBOT. That stands for the Local Business Online Toolkit. All right. All of that aside here, we're ready to get going on some questions, some news, and providing you some good information, good resources. So if you are watching out there on any of our platforms, please throw those questions in the comments below. We'll address them as they come up, or email us your questions at askwildman@wildmanweb.com. All right, to get us going here, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my friend Mike Hanna. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Good morning, Miles. I am doing fantastic, but getting better. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. I don't know if I ever told you, Halloween's my favorite holiday, so
Is it?
always happy when those come around. Yeah, of course. You get to dress up and be crazy. There's candy. It's right next to my birthday, so I always kind of got lumped in together growing up. I love it.
Well, I hope you had a good one. It was a beautiful day yesterday, at least.
It really was, yeah. Well, we are here to answer your questions. Anyone out there watching live, please throw those questions in below. Mike here works with me at Wildman Web Solutions. I'm sort of the tech side. He's the marketing side. So together, hopefully we can answer something reasonably well. So throw your questions in there, preferably technology, marketing related, business related, something like that. But if you just want to ask us about how our day is going, that's cool too. Ask us about golf. That comes up a lot in this show for some reason.
Hey,
I pretend like I know what's happening there.
I actually played pretty well yesterday, Miles, if you're curious. So.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
See, I've been to a driving range once, and I did awfully. And that is the extent of my golf experience.
Yeah, I do
I'm more of a soccer guy. If there's any soccer fans out there, ask me questions about that. That's what I can talk about.
All right.
Anything else?
Well, how about we talk about something important?
Something important?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it. What do you got over there?
All right. I'm going to put the coffee down, and I'm going to talk about closing. I'm going to talk about sales today, Miles.
All right.
So we don't talk about sales very much on the show, and I don't know why. We should. We should talk about it more because it's super important. And of course, everybody is in sales. You know, if you're a small business owner or you manage a team of people in a large business, you're definitely in sales. We're all in sales. And so it's a super important thing to talk about every now and again. So I just had a couple quick points that I wanted to hit on since it is welcome to November. It is November 1st, and we're closing in on the end of the year. It's hard to believe, but here we are. And so a lot of people maybe that aren't focused on sales all the time, this is the time of year where they are starting to really focus on sales. So they want to finish with a certain quota if they have a financial year that ends December 31st. And so this is a great time to, not only think about your sales today and how you can improve that for the rest of the year, but also think about maybe what you've been doing throughout the course of the year that has worked or hasn't worked, and how you can, better prepare yourself for next year. And if you are a business owner that's detached from, the sales process, well, if this is a busy time of year for you, like it is for a lot of businesses, it's a great time to get in there with your sales team and really see how the sausage is made. Just you can have an understanding, better of what's happening in there. So, because for a lot of folks, this is a really big time of year, and hopefully we're going to get a really big fourth quarter. I know a lot of people are counting on that after August, and September maybe a little bit slower than most would have liked with that whole Delta variant thing. But anyhow, okay, so the two main points here. First of all is this was one we discussed actually at the very beginning of the year. I think it was around February or so. Some data came out from Nielsen, I believe it was. It was one of the big ratings institutions, and it had to do with a study that they were doing based on basically the number of times that you had to ask somebody for a sale before they said yes. And we talked about it on the show, but I don't think we've really talked about it much since then. And I was actually talking to a salesperson in another organization last week, and we were both noticing this trend, that it's taking a lot more times, whether that's a physical meeting, an email, a phone call, whatever it is, to get things closed sometimes these days. And when we really start focusing on those contacts and how many we're having and how close the frequency of those contacts are, we've noticed that we've increased sales quite a bit in our own organizations. So what the stat basically said was, well, first of all, let me back up for a second, because there was an old stat that us marketers and salespeople used forever and ever, and that was 6 to 7 times. And this stat was, decades old, and that was basically that on average, people said no 6 to 7 times before they said yes, or you had to ask them or put your message in front of them, depending on how you kind of break down that, which seems like a lot, right?
And that's not just someone explicitly saying no either. That's them seeing your offer in one form or another and passing it up or something like that.
Yeah,
to clarify here.
Yeah, well, like I said, I mean, you kind of have to take that stat and apply it to your industry, because if you're in a strictly direct sales business where you don't do advertising, then yeah, that literally means you got to say, "Give me your money," 7 times before somebody does. So, but yeah, if you are, a company that advertises, obviously you have sales messages in those advertisements, so that you're going to apply that a little bit differently. But the new number that was based on recent data from 2020 was 16 to 17 times is now the average of how many times you have to get your sales message in front of somebody before they say yes and take action on it. So literally 10 times greater. And part of the whole, rationale of that was people are just busier now. People are distracted. People have a computer in their pocket. There's so many more distractions than there were 15, 20 years ago. And when we're doing sales, we sometimes think that we're being a pest to the people, right? Like we're bothering them. And this is the crush of the thing that I want people to understand is that you aren't bothering them. They aren't thinking about you. That's the problem. That's why it takes 16, 17 times now. It's because attention is not the same way that it used to be. It's not quantified the same way that it used to be. It's not held the same way that it used to be. So it's not necessarily that those people don't want your product or service. It's that they aren't thinking about you enough to go down through that decision-making process of the buying funnel, right? People don't buy things if they're confused or uninformed or not 100% on board with it, generally speaking. Now, sometimes emotion and exuberance can overcome those logical factors. But again, it's not that we are not, doing our job necessarily. It's that we don't understand that our job is shifted and that we have to get more touches with people. Now, obviously, if you ask somebody 17 times to buy something, hey, will you buy my stuff? Hey, will you buy my stuff? Hey, will you buy my stuff? They're going to slap you, right? Like nobody wants to be harassed like that. So we have to find different ways in order to get in front of people with our messages. We have to find ways to be helpful in finding out, ways to get in touch with these people. The other thing that we have to do, and this is why I say you really need to, figure out how your salespeople are interacting with these folks, because we also have to understand who is a no, right? And there's 2 kinds of no's. There's KNOW, I don't know enough to buy your product yet. And there's NO, I am not the person for this product or service, right? And because the sales team obviously can't waste time 17 times on an NO. You could do that, you're going to go broke, right? So we have to also have a way to filter out who is a real prospect and who is BS. And, no harm, no foul. Maybe there's another company that can help them. Maybe they're not even in the market for our services. But we can't find the time to go talk to those people 17 times. We have to find the KNOWs, and instead of talking to them 7 times, maybe it's 12, maybe it's 15, maybe it's 22 times that we have to constructively engage with them. So that's something that I want everybody to keep in mind at the top end of the funnel, and think about, especially if you are a sales manager, how you are massaging those leads that come into the top of the funnel to make sure that you are getting back with those people at an appropriate time to have those touches. Because that's the other thing is time, right? People also expect things to be done quickly now. And so if we're not getting back with people, if we're not, able to shorten up that process for them as much as possible, because if somebody really is in the market for your product and services, they don't want to go through this 17 times, right? So we also have to have a way to fast track people through very, very quickly. But though there are those KNOWs out there, and if we aren't pursuing those, we're leaving a lot of money on the table. Okay, second big picture point here, Miles, is on the other side of the funnel. Because it's taking so much more effort and time to get people through the funnel on average, we have to convert those people and keep them customers longer and better and not have as much churn, right? And we're going to get into a little bit of this here when we get into the news of how some people are doing that. But it's all about facilitating an environment where people want to come back and they want to engage with your company again and again. And maybe they also want to be a referral or be an advocate for you, because that's another way that you can cut down on that process in your sales, is have other people out there being your champion. People, I read this stat the other day. I'm not going to BS it because I forget the exact numbers, but it was basically that referrals are now the golden egg. Like, people buy off referrals now. If somebody they know, like, and trust recommends something to them more than any other time since we've been keeping track of this stuff. And I think part of that is because people are so bombarded with messages. There's so many different options out there that it's hard to cut through the BS, But if somebody that you already know, like, and trust is like, hey, this is the thing, these are the people, this is the product, great, let's just go with this, And so also think about that. But so the back end, what I'm trying to get at is we have to grow our LTV, our lifetime value, and we do that by getting people to come back and do business with us more, or by, if it is kind of a one-time, kind of a once in a lifetime, kind of a purchase or whatever, that we are expanding what we're offering to them, so they're going to make a bigger purchase. So that's it, Miles. Those are my two key issues here on sales. I know I can get long-winded on the sales thing, so we're not going to beat that up all day. Miles has to listen to me, poor guy, do a sales meeting here later on after we get done with you folks. So I'll throw it back to you if you have any thoughts on that, and then we can get into some news unless there's some questions down there.
Well, I mean, you're right. We can go a little bit far into the whole sales thing, but we don't talk about it too much on the show. I think we used to, and we kind of took a turn towards more technology, which I'm clearly fine with. But it is really important to get back to that because the technology that we're talking about here are really just tools that can be implemented as part of a strategy that ultimately should lead to sales. We're talking about running a business online here, and ultimately a business exists to make money. If you have the best website out there and a kick-ass app and really awesome marketing strategy, and you're getting out this beautiful message to everyone, but you're not making sales, then none of that matters. You're clearly doing something wrong there. You have the wrong goal. You're implementing something incorrectly. You're not using one of those tools properly, because this is the end goal. So we do need to talk about it a little bit more. I do think that it's interesting to kind of reframe how we think about attention here. While it may seem daunting, that stat that you gave here, instead of 6 or 7 times, we're looking at 16, 17, 18 times someone has to say no before finally getting that yes, and all the while trying to figure out what kind of a no they are. Is this someone that's worth pursuing or not? And knowing some of those times you're going to make the wrong call. You're going to give up on someone that actually just needed one more ask, or you're going to continue to ask someone that's just never going to be a sale and make your and waste your time on that. That entire thing can seem very, very daunting. But if we change our perception about what a no means, or what constitutes a no, and how attention is measured nowadays, I think that becomes much more realistic and much more attainable. When you're putting this information out there, you're marketing on Facebook, you are hopefully retargeting in a number of different ways. You are showing them your message on your website, on your app, on social media, on search engines. Then, someone can see 1,000 brands a day. if everyone is doing that. And that didn't used to be the case. So there's more competition out there. We're spending less time thinking about each one of those things. So we've just got to up that frequency a little bit and then prioritize things that are memorable, things that are going to stand out to them, because that person that you're trying to market to has seen 15,000 advertisements in the last couple of days. What is going to make yours stand out? What's going to make them remember your message here? And then, like you said, customer retention, we end up talking about that a lot here. And there's a lot of different sort of technology strategies that you can implement now to hopefully increase your customer retention, keep people coming back, and increase the lifetime value of a customer. But you said something there I think that we need to dive a little bit more into, because it ties into some other conversations that we've had before. And that is you said that it was referrals. So, when someone that like, and trust refers a product or a company, you're much more likely to pursue that product or that company than pretty much any other kind of advertisement out there. And I want to tie that into sort of the creator first marketing strategies that we've been talking about the last couple of weeks. When I think of referrals, when someone says referral to me, I'm thinking one of my friends tells me this. My mom tells me this. Someone that's close to me in my circle, friends or family or something, says, "Hey, I tried this new thing. It's awesome. You should give it a shot." That is very likely to do well with me, to have a pretty good chance that I'm going to go out and I'm going to try that product. I'm going to become a lifelong user of that product, more likely than, just coming across something on the street or seeing an advertisement for it and going out and trying it. But we can extend that outside of that sort of friends and family circle. Of course, that's probably going to be the most impactful referral that you can get. But I also noticed that I'm much more likely to try a product or service that's recommended by a media figure that I follow, or someone has a podcast that I listen to all the time. They have a couple of advertisers in there, and they stop after reading the little script that they have to read and saying, "But no, seriously, I use this product. I like this product. That's why I advertise for it. I have no problem telling you to buy it because I personally think it's awesome."
Right.
I am much more likely to go out and give that product a try, or look it up, or really gain interest in something that maybe I didn't even think I was interested in before. And that's something that you don't get in just a display ad on search, or even a really good social media ad, a good Facebook ad. It can be really powerful to go through that method of marketing, which ties into creative first marketing. We were talking about different social media platforms kind of leaning in this direction of having these creators or these influencers market products to their audience, rather than trying to go directly to the audience via the platform, or leveraging third-party data in order to find your audience and market to them. You go and find a creator, an influencer, someone with some sort of platform, some sort of attention, and give them your message for their audience. It's typically a smaller audience, but like you say all the time, like, we don't need to reach 100,000 people. Most small businesses here in Lawrence, or in other communities around the country, we don't need 100,000 sales tomorrow. I'd be happy with 10. If we had a 10 or 100 new sales come in, depending on the size of your business and the type of business we're talking about here, if you had those coming in tomorrow or over the course of the next week, that could make your quarter. So if we can sort of niche down a little bit, get our message right, and put it in front of the right audience that way, by giving it to a creator, then that's someone that they're probably going to bring a lot more of their audience along than if you just took that same time, resources, money, and put it towards a general Facebook ad to the community at large.
Yeah, 100%. Because it's like I say sometimes, reach is the most overrated marketing metric. Right. Because it for most businesses, you don't need to reach a whole lot of people. You need to reach the right people a lot of times with the right message. And that's what we need to focus on. And Miles, what you were alluding to there on the trust factor is, it really gets back into cognitive biases, which we've talked about on the show before. But, these are hardwired things that every human being is born with, and it creates cognitive biases that sometimes, if we're really aware, we can be aware of them, but a lot of this stuff happens subliminally, and that, we can align ourselves with an idea or belief just based on the person who is giving us that idea or belief, sometimes even more than the content of it itself, which can be a little scary. But, that's how like dictators and stuff, have come to power before. But it's a really strong psychological effect. And it also gets back to Zig Ziglar, of course. So, and if anybody ever wants to improve their sales and their organization, simply read Zig Ziglar's books and act on what he says, because he is the GOAT, right? But it all goes back to know, like, and trust. All right, it's a super simple lesson, but it is so fundamental. People do business with people that they know, like, and trust, and so that should be our first goal: is to get people to know, which is attention; like, which is be like, okay, these people aren't, these are my people, my tribe, if you will, and then trust. Okay, like, yes, I can actually give these people money. I know they're not going to rip me off. And if you get those three things with somebody, you're much, much more likely to make a sale. But I want to go back to something you said before that was super important. We'll do a quick little sales training seminar for folks for free here.
And I add one thing to Zig Ziglar.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Read the books, but then also listen to him. Find some videos, find some old recordings. He's just fun to listen to. His cadence is entertaining. You could not listen to a word he said, and it's still fun to hear. Just hear him talk. Anyway, I just had to throw that out there. Maybe also look for some videos or something.
No, definitely. I mean, that's how I first got into Automobile University. And Miles is going to laugh at me because this makes me sound old. But back when I was doing direct sales, and I was driving around to place, I had Zig Ziglar cassette tapes. And that's all I'd listen to all day long. It'd get me fired up in between my sales demos. I was just listening to Zig as I was driving around. Okay. Well, I was going to go back to what you said about the key word here in all of this is ask. And I almost stopped you when you said that a few times, and I was like, he's on a roll. I'm just going to let him go. Okay, we got to go back and unpack this, right? Because somebody's sitting here probably thinking, Mike, 17 freaking times, how can I or my salespeople or my advertising or whatever get in front of somebody effectively 17 times? Okay, well, it doesn't necessarily have to be 17 different, times that I am in front of somebody asking them for their business, right? Again, like I said before, if I start doing that, especially if they're a possible no, I'm going to go out of business pretty fast, right? So this is where it gets into really training your sales team into how to ask 17 different questions to get the right 17 different answers within a minute and 17 seconds, or what fast as possible, what I'm trying to get at. You don't need all day to ask somebody 17 questions if you're doing it right. If I'm selling you a car, is this, what's your favorite color? Is this blue? No? Okay, well, we can get it in that green if that's your favorite color. Do you think your kids are going to like the back seat and how this, how these comfortable seats feel back there? Oh, yeah. What's your husband going to think about this car and the safety features on it? And What do you think about these tires in the snow? Is that going to help you a little bit better with the traction when it gets icy out there? Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, what would you typically do a down payment when you finance a car? Oh, you don't? Okay. Well, what's about a monthly rate that you're looking at? Okay, about $300 to $400 a month. And do you usually take that out over a longer period of time or a shorter period of time? Oh, okay, really? So if we could get you around $300 a month today, and little down and 64 months timeline, that would be something you'd be willing to do. Great. Okay. What do you think your husband would say about that? Okay, look, great. I tell you what, let's get him over to the showroom and let's talk about it. Let's have him test drive this, and let's have you guys take this home today. Right? I just asked probably 17 different questions right there. Okay. Now, I got to be reading the signals. What are they saying to me? Right? All this stuff is coming back, and I have to be able to filter it in real time and understand, is this person a real prospect? Is this person really wanting to need my products and services? Can I really help this person today? Or are we wasting our time here? You know, and that's where you got to just do some sales training and understand how your salespeople are handling those leads as they come through, and make sure that we're not, wasting our time. We're not chasing NOs, and also that we're not giving up on KNOWs after 2 or 3 times that we ask somebody a question. They go, "Oh, I don't think they wanted it." Well, Bob, you asked them 2 freaking questions. Why would they want it, right? So the key to all this, again, is asking questions, because that's how we get the no's out of the way, right? If I'm a salesperson, I should love the word no, because that's how I get more information that's going to lead me to a yes. Should never be afraid of an objection. And that's, where a lot of us get held up, is we're afraid of the objection. We are afraid that we're pestering somebody. We're afraid that we're going to call them. They're going to go, "Golly, I don't want to hear from this person again." Again, that's not the issue. They're not thinking about you. They don't care. They have forgot about you the last time that you walked out of their office. And so we have to bring it back to that conversation of what is their pain point, what is their need, what is their end goal that they are trying to achieve, and again, figure out if we can help them today. Okay, that was a quick little sales rundown. We do some sales training every now and again. If somebody wants some help, you can always reach out to us. But I think we beat that horse to death. Should we get into the news, Miles?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Good call.
Lots of good news here. Big news. Okay. Let's hit it. All right. First thing, picking up from last week, Facebook has announced their new brand. They are called Meta. And Facebook is ready the bigger VR future with its Meta rebrand. I'm not going to go too much into this. We hit this story pretty hard last week. Basically, this is the new metaverse. This is going to be the parent company of Facebook. And they are investing millions and millions of dollars. They got 10,000 workers over in the EU to build this thing out. Zuckerberg released a super creepy video last week detailing some of it. I encourage everybody to go and watch it.
In their defense, creating a virtual world here, it's hard to not veer into creepy sci-fi land. I think they're trying really hard not to do that, but it may in fact be impossible to market this without stepping in a couple of creepy zones here.
It was definitely a little weird, but go check it out. It did give a good explanation and kind of realization for the audience of kind of what this thing's going to be like. So certainly you can probably get more out of it than listening to me explain it. So go and check that out. But yeah, some big news across social media world in general, as Q3 numbers came out for pretty much everybody last week, and earnings were down. For Facebook missed some of their expectations and hit others. Snapchat was abysmal. Google was better than expected. We'll get into that here in a minute. But the first one we're going to talk about here is maybe one that we don't think about sometimes in terms of Amazon. They're trying to, I just gave it away, in terms of advertising, and they're trying to change that. And that is Amazon. So Amazon's ad business shows resilience against broader revenue challenges. Amazon's other category that predominantly consists of advertising sales grew 49% year over year to $8 billion in the third quarter. With the rate of year-over-year growth, the category was lower than in recent quarters. It remained a bright spot in a report that otherwise whiffed on earnings and revenue expectations. Amazon's guidance for the fourth quarter and holiday period also missed Wall Street's estimates, sending shares down at the bell. Amazon is grappling with the resurgence of in-store shopping and intense supply chain and labor-related pressures, but those haven't substantially impacted advertiser demand. Executives suggested as brands and sellers remain eager to shift their media dollars to performance-driven channels and the types of streaming offerings that Amazon supports. So we talked about this story a couple times early in the year when Amazon really expanded some of their advertising options in terms of their streaming services, as well as in the commerce site itself. So a really great portal for people who are wanting to get attention to the large audiences that they do have through their streaming channels, but also those more direct sales marketers are enjoying a lot of success in the actual commerce channel itself. But Amazon, the world's biggest retailer, is really sharing the brunt of a lot of the problems that even us small businesses and those businesses on Main Street are dealing with. This is happening across the board, folks. Of course, the in-store shopping part of it is a boom for some of these Main Street and Mass Street type stores, but with the intense supply chain issues certainly being felt across the board, and labor-related pressures, I think, is an understatement. I saw the other day that in some areas, Amazon is having to offer, I think it was a $3,000 sign-on bonus, $22 an hour, and full benefits for entry-level warehouse workers. I think that was in Pennsylvania or somewhere on the East Coast. They were having to do that. I thought, wow, that is certainly some unprecedented stuff. And I think they're offering subsidized childcare as well at a lot of locations. So certainly there is intense demand for workers out there. Okay, Amazon dropped poor Q3 results on Thursday, other than the advertising, despite its outlook for Q4 and the critical holiday rush being particularly rosy. So it's interesting here that, here's where a good line is. Perhaps telling, Q3 marked the first time in Amazon's history that revenue derived from services outpaced that of retail sales. Total U.S. Digital ad revenues were up 50% year over year in the first half of 21, and they are expected to continue to show strength through the end of the year. That's not to say Q4 won't be volatile. Some marketers are reportedly pulling back on their ad spends as they contend with similar challenges to Amazon, including clogged ports and material shortages that could leave shelves bare. But executives on earnings calls discussing the Q3 results didn't seem to be sweating the situation on the advertising front. Okay, so there's a whole lot there to unpack there, Miles. Basically, what they're saying is they're expecting the advertising revenue to continue to grow, but there is this, kind of impending potential doom out there that, why would I be advertising if I can't get any supplies? So, that if that does happen, those companies that do have supplies and don't have supply chain issues, they may be getting some favorable advertising rates in Q4 this year, which would certainly be a change of pace. But that was certainly an interesting story on multiple issues there, again, from the world's biggest retailer. And I wanted to just hit one other thing here before we get into Facebook and Google. And this all kind of ties together here in terms of the e-commerce. Okay, well, actually, two quick things here. Amazon has expanded its suite of marketing tools, adding 8 new measurement and advertising products, right? So they are fixing a problem that we're seeing on other platforms like Facebook, especially, we'll get to in a second, where it's becoming harder to track it, right? So why would I spend more money on a platform if it's harder for me to track it? Amazon's trying to combat that. Those include the addition of display ads and Twitch live streams, and a brand list solution that tracks marketing campaign objections such as awareness, purchase intent, and ad recall. Even as some of the pandemic's e-commerce frenzy cools, marketers are shifting more of their budgets to performance channels that are tied closer to driving actions like a purchase. Amazon rivals such as Facebook and Google are also eyeing shopping, the ability to better link ads to commerce, among their next long-term growth opportunities. Okay.
Mhm. Amazon is uniquely positioned to become a really interesting marketer because they are actually the marketplace. That's where you buy something from.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook would just be sort of this intermediary step between things. You're not actually buying the product on Facebook generally. You are just being exposed to the brand, exposed to the product. You click on it, and that takes you to where you need to be. Amazon, they are the marketplace. They also have some other key features in there as far as like getting zero and first party data, where they are doing a lot of the financing.
Mm-hmm.
You can get an Amazon credit card where they can actually see, to a certain extent, some data about your purchasing behavior, where you buy things at, what you're buying, and use that in their marketing tools.
Mm-hmm.
So they can get a lot of really important information, of important buying information specifically about their users and people on their platform that other platforms just aren't going to have access to. Not to say that's going to be the end all and be all of marketing, and social media clearly has its strengths as well. But Amazon being the marketplace and controlling the very bottom end of the funnel there, the actual purchasing, is incredibly powerful.
100%, Miles. And that's going to tie in very nicely into this next story here,
Perfect.
because let's talk about Facebook, right? And Facebook, as I said, missed their earnings. Some people said it was pretty dismal report. Some analysts were calling it. And one of the things that they are trying to do is make themselves more of a marketplace, right? With Facebook Marketplace in general, with Facebook Pay,
Hmm.
they've even been developing their own currency, which we can get into. Okay, but headline here: Facebook outlines multi-year plan to rebuild targeting systems as growth slows. Facebook saw revenue from advertising grow 33% year over year in the third quarter. For most companies, that would be great. Total revenue increased 35% year over year to $29 billion. The results, however, arriving during a dump of leaked documents that have embroiled the company into PR crisis, missed analyst revenue expectations, with executives attributing the slowdown largely to changes Apple made to user tracking. Moving forward, Facebook plans to prioritize three product areas: Reels, its TikTok lookalike; e-commerce, which is expected to play a larger role around the holidays; and, of course, the buzzword of the day, the metaverse, where Facebook plans to invest $10 billion this year. On the latter front, Facebook is spinning off its Facebook Reality Labs until it focuses on unit focused on augmented and virtual reality hardware as a separate reporting segment starting in the fourth quarter. Regarding Facebook's broader vision, CEO Mark Zuckerberg said the company will try to narrow in on offerings catered to younger users who have expressed slipping interest in apps amid the mediocre rise of rivals like TikTok, which the executive views as one of its most serious threats. Okay, so sorry about that. A couple interesting things to unpack here. First, the hardware, right?
Yeah.
So I like how they blame Apple for missing their revenue reports, and then in their future plans, they're like, "We're going to be more like Apple, and we're going to start building out hardware," right? Because I mean, that's what
That
Apple.
seems like an appropriate response. Yeah.
Yeah,
Apple is really strong in
they
hardware.
right. They make great software and great hardware. Facebook right now just makes great apps. So, and then the other thing here, of course, was the e-commerce. And let me jump down here.
And also pulling out their, I forget, like a Reality Labs, but it's basically just an R&D thing. So they're going to be measuring that separately just because they know that's going to be a money suck. And it's not going to really start producing the types of revenue that they're going to be able to see in something like e-commerce as they develop out their marketplace in the immediate future. So that would just tank their numbers if they wanted to put that in the same report.
Yeah.
So even that point totally makes sense here. I understand where they're coming from outside of developing a new universe, which I don't totally get, and I'm not sure I'm on board with everything else there. Yeah, that all makes sense.
Yeah. So here,
to e-commerce. E-commerce was another big ticket item heading into a holiday season that's expected to see continued traction for the channel. However, supply chain challenges and labor shortages, we're seeing a theme, were painted as reducing advertisers' appetites to generate consumer demand. Looking past short-term disruptions, executive also cautioned that the commerce frenzy that has animated retail since the pandemic's outset is showing signs of cooling off. There was a period of time where many people were able to stay home and order things online much more, but now in many places things have opened up and people are increasingly making purchases in person. That doesn't mean that e-commerce has stopped growing, but businesses are still making the shift online. But e-commerce is no longer growing at the pace it was at the height of the pandemic. Still, Facebook has big plans for Q4, including daily live shopping experiences. We talked about this last week with brands like Macy's and Walmart. A tech rival YouTube is also pursuing. So, they like we talked about there. They're really trying to make themselves a marketplace as well, and they've tapped two major retail giants that are competitors of Amazon in order to help them do that. But the other thing here, I guess, was kind of interesting, Miles, is we were talking about TikTok. I can't remember, what was it, last week or the week before, how they're not this little upstart anymore. And it was interesting, the language that Facebook used, as they're taking them as a extremely serious competitor right now. TikTok is a clear driver of this shift in thinking, with Zuckerberg calling the video sharing app one of the most effective competitors we have ever faced. In response, Facebook is going all in on its copycat feature Reels, which rolled out globally in August 2020. Later on the call, Sandberg said 60% of Facebook's video revenue now comes from mobile-first video, meaning videos that are shot in the vertical format and are under 15 seconds. Facebook earlier this year introduced financial incentives for creators who continue to help fortify fledgling products like Reels and live streaming.
Yeah, TikTok is definitely not, it's out of its infancy and into, it's a real player here. And just watching how quickly one particular and very key demographic picked up that app and stuck on it. Just you can look at the stats of how often someone uses an app, how long they stay on it, how active they are while using it. Some apps, you get it and you use it once a month, or if you're on it, you're only on it for a second. Like the actual engagement metrics as far as people who download this app and then start using it are off the charts. And one of the reasons why I think they've been able to establish themselves as such a powerful competitor to someone like Facebook. And then of course you see the copycat elements. You've got Reels coming out from Facebook, Instagram. You've got Shorts coming out from YouTube, and those are very quickly becoming their most digested, their most intake piece of content on the entire platform. So they're tapping into something there. I don't know if it's just short attention spans, or if everyone's just looking for that quick flashy thing and then on to the next thing. I'm not entirely sure what's going on there, but there's clearly something going on in that segment of the market, and Facebook's fighting back.
100%. Okay, now same story, different mega giant company. Let's move over to Google. Google eyes long-term opportunity in commerce as retail drives blowout ad revenue. Alphabet, which is Google for those who don't know, saw revenues rise 41% year over year to $65 billion in the third quarter. Revenue derived from Google's advertising network hit $53 billion for the period. On a call discussing the results with analysts, executives pointed to the broad-based strengths and continued advertising demand, including significant contributors from the retail category. Google has made a concentrated push into commerce since the start of the pandemic. They've started to returning visitors online. Stores were up fourfold in the first half of 2021 versus 2020. Now the company is trying to support retailers' omni-channel strategies as people begin to shop more in stores ahead of the key holiday season. YouTube also served as a bright spot with its shorts, its TikTok lookalike. YouTube also trying to rip off TikTok.
Yeah.
Seeing the average number of daily first-time creators more than double in Q3. The video sharing platform, which saw revenue up 43% year over year to $7.2 billion in Q3, is expanding its shopping bets. Where have we heard this before? With live streaming events featuring blue chip retailers such as Target and Walmart. So, birds of a feather flock together. Google owner Alphabet posted a blowout Q3 as rivals in digital advertising, including Facebook and Snapchat, went through a far bumpier period and missed revenue expectations. The social media category is being roiled by changes introduced by Apple that have made it harder to target and measure mobile ads on the iPhone makers' devices. When asked about the impact the iOS update had, the Alphabet CFO said the hit to YouTube revenue has so far been modest and mostly affected direct response formats. Otherwise, Google held on to strong momentum as the larger digital ads market rebounded, speaking to how its scale and sturdy foundation and channels like search have provided guardrails against outside disruptions during a volatile year. Pure play U.S. digital ad revenues were up almost 50% year over year to $81.5 billion. The resurgence has been buoyed by both a larger consumer brands and small businesses that are making the jump to the channel for the first time. Amid that shift, the commerce has become a bigger ticket item for Google, which operates a shopping tab on its core search business and has layered more purchasing functions into apps like YouTube. Brick and mortar isn't dead. Instead, omni-channel is in full force, said CBO Schneider said on Tuesday's call. As a result, we've seen more advertisers include in-store sales along with e-commerce goals to drive omni-channel growth. Adoption has nearly doubled over the past year. Snyder pointed to the long-term opportunity in commerce that spans search, YouTube, and more experimental offerings like Google Lens and an image recognition technology software. Okay, so this makes sense to me, Miles. People are, going towards the bottom of the funnel. They're maybe not spending as much money on branding, and they're targeting more sales here, especially going into fourth quarter. And search is a great tool for that. And Google has the best search capabilities, of course, out there. And then YouTube is really, really powerful in terms of conversions. So that makes sense. And I think a lot of people have that were maybe, starting to see results slow on platforms like Facebook have shifted some of their budgets over here to Google in the face of all the changes that we've seen over the past 10, 12 months in this space. It's certainly been a whole lot of changes. And then, of course, that theme that has been woven throughout this, is how can we remove the layers between the platform and the purchasing? And how can we intertwine our platform with a more direct commerce-based platform than simply a social platform that will lead somebody to a place of commerce? So some interesting stuff there, Miles. I'm going to toss it back over to you to wrap this up because I know we got to get to a closing point here. So sorry for being a little long-winded at the news desk today. That's all I got.
Hey, that's some good stuff. Big players, big major players in the technology and marketing spaces, all kind of moving in a similar direction, all fighting for the same kind of plots of land. And then there's us. There's the little players. There's the small businesses just trying to find the right place, the right horse to bet on. So we will stay on top of this, stay on top of the developments. And as these major players start moving their pieces around and updating their business models and trying to take over the world and or create a new one, we will make sure that we are aware of all of that and can answer your questions on it and hopefully advise you where to put your time, where to put your attention, and how to effectively run a small business online. with that, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Mike and I, we have a meeting to get to where you get to talk to me more about sales. If you have any questions on this, or you think that there's something else that we should cover next week, please email us your questions at askwildman@wildmanweb.com. DM us on the social media that you happen to be watching us on. We'll be live streaming again next Monday at 11 o'clock, live streaming to our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch channels. So pick your poison there and watch us live, or just send us your questions via email there, and we'll get back to you then. With that, I guess thanks for watching, and we will see you all next week.